Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We're in the middle of Perek Lametes. The context over here is we are discussing the necessity, the reason for, and the advantage of kavanah. Why is it that we need kavanah? Why is it not enough to do mitzvahs? You know, Hashem wants that we should create a dir b'tachtonim. He wants that we should create and that's accomplished through Maisa, beficha v'vavcha la'asoisai. And that's done dafka through Maisa. So just do mitzvahs, and what do you care if there's why is it important that there should be kavanah? And imagine you have a car, you own a car company. Car manufacturing company, you own Ford. So you have workers who work in the factories. Is it important for them to have kavanah when they put together the cars?
The merchandise.
As long as they do a good job, right? They do the job. So the mission accomplished.
Well, they need concentration. They
need concentration, right? But not kavanah. I don't need them to have ava and yira for me. I don't need them to love me. I don't need them to fear me. As long as they do the job. As long as they do the job. So the same thing is, we are the workers in Hashem's big mifal, and Hashem's big factory. Hashem put us down here in this world with a mission. The mission being to make a dir b'tachtonim, to make for him a dwelling place over here in Olam Hazagashmi through doing mitzvahs. So why is our kavanah important? So that's what we're talking about. That's the larger context. But we took a little detour here in the beginning of Perek Lametes, and we're talking a little about Gan Eden and the level that the neshama reaches, the mother haneshama, where the neshama is going to dwell after 120 years. So last week we started speaking in last lesson, and we said that it depends on the avodah of the person. That if a person's avodah is with the chilu or the chimus sichliim, if a person has kavanah meaning has avas Hashem and yiras Hashem, and that kavanah is a product of his own intellect, of his own contemplation into Hashem's greatness. It is self-generated. So the neshama of that person, its mother, its dwelling place is in Olam Habriya, which is also known as Gan Eden Ha'elyon, the higher level of Gan Eden, because in Olam Habriya that's where you have Begilui, that's where you have the revelation of Hashem's Bina, that's where Hashem's the intellect is revealed. So someone whose service of Hashem was with a kavanah that is sourced in his seichel, so that person's neshama ends up in Olam Habriya.
They have any mitzvot that doesn't need kavanah and they have the same sachar?
Sorry?
They have any mitzvot that doesn't need kavanah, but you will have the same sachar like you do in the kavanah? You have such a thing?
No. In order to get to Olam Habriya, because Olam Habriya is the world of Hashem's seichel, therefore it takes your own ava v'yira, your kavanah, but a kavanah which is rooted in the seichel, in order for the neshama to get there. Now, then he says, however, all other neshamas of Yidden, the neshamas of Yidden who serve with Hashem with kavanah, but this kavanah, this ava v'yira, is the natural love and fear which a Yid has for Hashem. As we know, every single Yid is born with a natural love and person just taps into the natural ava. It's called the ava tivis, the natural love, or the ava mitzuteres, the love which is hidden within the heart of every Yid to serve Hashem. So the neshama of that person goes up to Olam HaYitzira, also known as Gan Eden HaTachton, the lower level of Gan Eden, because that's the world where Hashem's midas, where Hashem's emotions are revealed and are manifest. Very good. Now we're holding, and we're going to start from V'chein Shar Kol Neshamas Yisrael, which is on page Nun Beis.
Which part is it?
11 lines to the bottom. The first word in the line is Ein Sof Baruch Hu.
Yeah, the Russian word.
Yep. V'chein Shar Kol Neshamas Yisrael, the same thing as all the neshamas of all the Yidden Sha'avdus Hashem, that served Hashem, B'dchilu or Rechimu, with the fear of Hashem and love of Hashem, Hamusutares, believe Klaus Yisrael, the natural love and fear, which is hidden within the heart of every single Yid. So those neshamas, they are in Olam HaYitzira, they're in the world of Yitzira. And Ein Oiles L'Sham, they only go up to the world of Bria, to Gan Eden Ha'elyon, Rak b'Shabbos v'Rosh Chodesh levad. only on Shabbos and on Rosh Chodesh. We know on Shabbos and on Rosh Chodesh, in Kabbalah, we have this concept called Aliyah Sa'ilmas. Everything moves up. All the worlds move up to higher level. We have this in the Haftarah for Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. We say V'haya midei Shabbos b'Shabbatay u'midei Chodesh b'Chadshay yavich al basar lishtachves lefanai. It says over there that when Mashiach comes, that every Shabbos, every Rosh Chodesh, all the Yidden are going to come up to the Beis Hamikdash to bow down before Hashem, and that is because Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, the neshama has an aliyah.
I thought there's L'mayla min Zman. There's no space. L'mayla min Zman. How do you get a Shabbos over there?
That's a good question. It's a great question, but we're going to move on right now.
Yeah, all right.
Okay? So on Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, the neshamas, they go up from the world of Yitzhira, from Gan Eden Atachten, they go up to Gan Eden Elyon. Even those neshamas that don't really belong in Gan Eden Elyon, they don't belong in Elam Habriya because they did not serve Hashem with a Ava V'yira Sichlis. They served Hashem with a Ava V'yira Tivis, with a natural love and fear of Hashem, not with one rooted in Seichel. But Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, they go up Derech HaAmud, by way of the Amud Shemigan Eden Atachten L'Gan Eden Elyon. There is a Amud, a beam.
Not a ladder.
No, Amud means a beam, which leads from Gan Eden Atachten to Gan Eden Elyon, and they go up by way of that beam.
Anyway, the grammar, it's good. It's keep the seven going to heaven. But do we have more responsibilities? Or like, we have more things. Or like, we have to do to earn Olam Haba and Gan Eden and everything.
It's not relevant to today, to this class. In other words, just because we mentioned the word Gan Eden doesn't mean that we're open to any discussion that involves Gan Eden. We're being very specific in our conversation over here. That's true. Everything you're saying is correct, but it's not relevant to our class. So the neshamas go up on Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. The neshamas go up L'Gan Eden Elyon. Shu Olam Habriya. Now we're talking. That's the world of Briya. Hanikra Gan Eden Elyon. Bria is the higher level of Gan Eden. Lisaneg al Hashem, which over there the neshamas take pleasure in Hashem, v'lihanis meziv hashchina, and take pleasure in the radiance of the Shechina. Ke'ein hana v'tainug v'seichel nivra. The greatest pleasure that the mind of a created being can have is elaba mashamaskil. Umevin v'yedea is the ability to understand and to grasp umasig b'sichloi, and to be able to comprehend in one's mind ubinasai mashe'ev shloi, that which is possible lahavin ulahastik, to understand and comprehend me'er ein seif baruch hu, from the infinite light of Hashem. Ayidei chachmasi ubinasai yizbarech hameira sham ba'elam habriya, through Hashem's intellect. Their ability to be able to comprehend Hashem is through Hashem's intellect, which, as mentioned, me'irais, they are revealed sham over there by Elam Habriya, in the world of Briya. So this is a topic which we spoke about in the past, which is that we have in this week's Pirkei Avos, it says that Yafa Shah Achas shall Kairas Ruach Ba'elam Haba Mekol Chai Elam Haza. The 1 hour of pleasure in Elam Haba is greater than this whole everything in this world. In fact, the Rambam, when he talks about it, he says that we are totally incapable of being of relating to the pleasure which there is in Elam Haba. Do you mind opening the window? They were totally. He says we are incapable of being able to.
You want another window?
It's great. We are incapable of understanding, appreciating the kind of pleasure they have in Olam Haba. Just like a blind person a person who's born blind is completely incapable of appreciating the concept of colors. The same thing is a person, we have no way of appreciating it. It's because the greatest pleasures are spiritual pleasures, are not physical pleasures, and that's true even here in this world. Even here in this world. A little kid, so what's the pleasure for a little child? Is a lollipop or tactile. Everything is, the more physical it is, and the more something which is tangible and something that you can actually taste with that's the greatest pleasure. And then, as you grow up, the pleasures become more and more spiritual, more and more abstract. What is the greatest pleasure that a person can have? A relationship with someone else. Nachas, right? Nachas from children. Go explain to a 3-year-old child that you want to go to a concert. You're going to listen to some classical music being played. He's like,
You're crazy.
take a lollipop. You want pleasure? Take a lollipop. What are you? I'm going to go listen to someone playing piano, and that's going to be your pleasure. And that's true in all areas of life. That the real pleasures are not physical. We graduate from them. Even the pleasures that we associate with the physical are not really physical. For example, I think maybe we've brought this example before. If you think to yourself, the most memorable and best dinner that you ever had. Think, what was the best meal? The one meal which leaves its mark on you.
I can't even remember what I had for supper last night.
Can't remember, okay?
It's like irrelevant.
But one thing I can tell you for certain,
We had like
the most memorable meals that you have and the most enjoyable meals that you experienced, it wasn't because of...
It was associated with a spiritual...
Right, it wasn't because of the tastiness of the food, although that might have been part of it.
Yeah.
But it's primarily the people who you're with.
Yeah.
And it was the lighting and the ambiance and the spiritual experience and the feelings that you were experiencing. And had you had the exact same food, but while you were sitting alone in your house, and you'd have had it on a paper plate with a plastic spoon and a plastic fork, it wouldn't have had any memories associated. Because the greatest pleasures possible are spiritual pleasures, and the more we become spiritual, the more we have greater pleasures. In fact, the Alter Rebbe brings down that the ancient Greek philosophers, they lived extremely Spartan lifestyles. They wanted nothing.
What Spartan means?
Mistapik b'mud. They didn't need anything. They lived very simple lifestyles. And
Sterile?
sorry,
Sterile?
no. Just no glitz. Very simple. They didn't chase.
They were not interested in
They didn't even get married. They weren't even interested in relationships because they took such incredible pleasure in philosophy. And that's the highest sort of pleasure. That's the highest, the intellect is the highest spiritual faculty that we have. The story is told in secular sources that there was this great philosopher, I forget what his name is. Not Aristotle or Plato, not one of the household names, but another philosopher. I forget what his name was at the moment.
Diogenes?
What?
Diogenes?
Maybe. No. I'm talking about in ancient Greece.
There was a guy that looked up there.
It might have been Diogenes, yes. And that when Alexander the Great became the king, so he heard about this great, incredible philosopher, and he's going to go visit him. So he goes to visit him. The guy is basically not wearing anything, and he's lying in the back in a field in a tub, like in a bathtub, just lying there and thinking. And Alexander the Great comes, and he's followed by all his entourage, and he comes and he asks. And he looks at him, and there's like an awkward silence between the two of them. And Alexander says, "I'm Alexander the Great." And he says, "Okay, I am," whatever his name was. Alexander says, I am a great admirer of yours. Is there anything that I can do for you? So he thinks for a second and says, "Yeah, you can move out of the way. You're blocking the sun." To him, he didn't need anything. He didn't want anything, and the king meant nothing to him because to him, the only thing was.
blocking the sun.
But most people, even in Olam Haza, most people don't really fully appreciate the pleasure that there is in seichel, in understanding, and intelligence, and figuring out. But if you ever learned a blot of Gemara, something which was very complicated, and you figured it out, and you got it, and everything was systemized in your mind, that comes with an incredible satisfaction. So, in Gan Eden also, there are different levels in Gan Eden. The lower level of Gan Eden, which is the world of Yitzira, is the world of emotions. Emotions are lower than intellect, which is why, for example, animals have emotions, or kids have emotions much more developed. Intellect is higher. The highest level of Gan Eden, which again is a pleasure we can't even begin to imagine, is the pleasure of understanding. And what are they understanding? What are they comprehending? And what are they grasping in Gan Eden Elyon, at the highest level of Gan Eden? Understanding whatever is possible to understand from the infinity of Hashem. And that's the greatest pleasure. And you see, even when Mashiach comes also, what does it say? That what's the V'layeh Asek Kala Olam Kulei, the Rambam writes, what's going to be the preoccupation of the entire world? Is going to be Ladas es Hashem, to understand Hashem. So you go tell that to a kid, we have to scream, you want Mashiach now? Because when Mashiach comes, here's what's going to happen. We're going to be, a whole day we're going to think about Hashem and understand Hashem. And the kid says, really? That's what it is? So the kid to the kid we say, you'll have lollipops. But we have to know that the emes is the greatest tainug is taka, this tainug, which is experienced in Gan Eden Elyon. Now, so we're saying, those neshamas who are intellectual neshamas in this world, their service of Hashem is intellectual, their kavanah, their avaviyira is intellectual based, so their places in the world of Bria, Gan Eden Elyon. Those neshamas who are more the emotional type, they're not the big intellectuals, and they tap into the natural love and fear, their places in the lower level of Gan Eden, which is in the world of Yitzira, except for on Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, also the neshamas that are in the world of Yitzira, the neshamas that are in Gan Eden Atachten, they go up to Gan Eden Elyon. Says the Alter Rebbe, why? Why do the neshamas, the non-intellectual neshamas, the neshamas that served Hashem only, with the Ava v'Yirativis, with the natural love and fear of Hashem, why do they get to go to Gan Eden, Ha'elyon, to the higher level of Gan Eden, to Bria, to the world of Bria on Shabbos Rosh Chodesh? That's no fear, especially since who gets left behind in the world of Yitzira, on the lower level of Gan Eden? All the Malachim.
Because man is greater than the Malachim.
Because you remember.
They have more seichel.
Oh, but no. The whole point
they're
we're saying is
equivalent.
Malachim, right? They're the equivalent. Malachim serve Hashem with their Avav Yirativis, with their natural love and fear.
Yeah.
So why is it that the neshamas that serve Hashem with Avav Yirativis, with the instinctive love and fear of Hashem, why do they get promotion on Shabbos and Yom Tov, not the Malachim? Where's the justice? Imagine the Malachim picketing, right? The Malachim holding up their signs and they're saying this is no fear. Why do the neshamas go up? We don't. We're on the same level. Says the Alter Rebbe, 3 lines from the bottom of page Nun Beis. The fact that these neshamas, they merit to rise up higher than the Malachim. Even though that these neshamas also served Hashem only with the natural love and fear, because that through the love and fear that they had, the neshamas had, they subjugated the sitra achra, the klipa in their body, the nefesh habahamis. Both, and it was hard work. In other words, the malachim don't have to deal.
They have no sitra achra.
They don't have sitra achra. They don't have yitzhara. They don't have nefesh habahamis. They didn't have to subjugate anything in order to serve Hashem, and we have to. The neshama had to fight and subdue the sitra achra, both in terms of staying away from that which is ra, from evil, to overcome the taivus, u'l'shavaran, to break them. And also when it comes, the struggle that we all have to do the right thing, to do mitzvahs. Kinis Karla'el, as mentioned earlier. So number one.
So if they have this quality, why don't they go to the Olam Abriya to begin with?
And the neshamas had bechira, as opposed to the malach which doesn't have bechira. The neshamas possessed free choice, and they had it within their ability to choose evil. And instead they chose to do the right thing, the good thing. Like fa'il sitra achra, they chose to subdue the sitra achra, and thereby to cause to cause the revelation of the glory of Hashem in all the worlds. Like the advantage of light that emerges from the darkness, Kinis Karla'el, as mentioned earlier, as we learned in Perek Chav Zayin in chapter 27. So Alter Rebbe is saying like this. Number one, neshamas accomplish something which malachim don't accomplish. Yes, the service might be the exact same. We both serve the Hashem, both malachim and neshamas serve Hashem with a natural love and fear of Hashem. But a malach doesn't accomplish anything with the service. And a yid, through his service, because a yid has free choice, subdues and subjugates the sitra achra, the nefesh habahamis, and that causes the revelation of Hashem in all the worlds. A cosmic revelation of Hashem. As we learned earlier in Perek Zayin in chapter 27, that V'gam es ha'olam nasam b'libay, that we might think ourselves as small and insignificant and relative to the cosmos and all the spiritual worlds and everything out there. In fact, every single one of us, we hold the keys to everything, to all the spiritual worlds. Everything that happens in the spiritual worlds is a reflection of your Avodah. We push the buttons and we pull the levers. Everything is within us. Which is that's interesting irony of the way Seder Hishtalshelus works. Seder Hishtalshelus, the whole flow. We are, talk about like an assembly line, the factory you spoke about earlier. We're on the bottom. We're on the receiving end of everything. We're the lowest world. And we're dependent upon all the energies that flow to us through the entire system of worlds that Hashem created. But ironically, although we are on the receiving end, we're the lowest rung, but we hold all the levers. Everything is dependent on us, whether there will be a flow or not, and what type of flow, it all depends on us. And as the pasuk says, Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is our shade. And the Baal Shem Tov says on this, and the pasuk Hashem tzilcha, the literal meaning of the pasuk Hashem tzilcha, is that Hashem is like He's your shadow and He's protecting you. But the Baal Shem Tov says it's just like a shadow. You pick up your right hand, the shadow picks up its right hand. You pick up your left hand, the shadow picks up its left hand. Whatever you do, Hashem is your shadow. You're causing a reciprocal effect above. When we have in ourselves, we have Kedusha and Sitra Achra, Kedusha and Klipa, Nefesh Al-Kis, Nefesh HaBahamis. When we subdue and subjugate the Nefesh HaBahamis and allow our Nefesh Al-Kis to take control and to manifest itself in the body, we cause the exact same thing above. We cause, in a cosmic sense, that the power of Klipa is subdued and subjugated, and we cause an incredible revelation of Elokus, of divine energy in all the worlds. Think about that. Think about that. Next time you have a little temptation to do an Avera, or a big temptation to do an Avera, or next time that you're too lazy, you feel a little too lazy to do a mitzvah. And think, when you go and you break your Nefesh HaBahamis, it's not a local thing only that you're doing within yourself. You're having a cosmic impact. You're breaking the Sitra Achra above. And you're unleashing an incredible amount of energy and divine light in all the worlds by you breaking your Yetzer Hara over here. The Rebbe explains in a Maimer that when you have to act contrary to your nature, in other words, your nature is that you want to sleep, and instead you wake up to learn Torah. For example, the Nefesh HaBahamis is the nature. The nature is you want to do what you want to do. And when you break your nature and instead you do what Hashem wants, so what do we cause? We cause a reciprocal effect that Hashem breaks His nature, kaviyachal as it were, and we have a tremendous gilui which is unnatural even for Hashem. The revelation of light in the higher worlds which we elicit through our iskafia, through our breaking our nature, we cause that Hashem breaks His nature also, and there's an unnatural gilui oyer l'mayla. So therefore, malachim and neshamas, both of us perhaps serve Hashem in the same way. Both of us serve Hashem with a natural love and fear of Hashem. But what we accomplish through that is the unleashing of the divine energy throughout all the worlds, and we accomplish the subjugation and the breaking of the Sitra Achra, and that a Malach can't accomplish. So that's advantage number one that we have over the Malach, is we accomplish much more than what they accomplish. But the fact that we accomplish more than they accomplish, so we're greater than them, that doesn't explain why the Neshamas go up to the world of Bria.
I have a potential answer, man, from what we said already, because you said that they made the choice. They made the choice, so that's like maybe an aspect of the world of Bria, which is
exactly where we're going. Okay. Exactly where we're going. Yeah. Because the fact that we accomplish more, okay, so we should be, so Malachim, so Neshama should be in the world of Yitzhira itself on a higher level than the Malachim. But at the end of the day, if our service of Hashem is purely emotional, so then how can we go to the world of Bria, which is an intellectual world? Our Avodah, we know that this is a very important rule, which we'll be discussing more as we go on. The idea of schar mitzvah. Which means that everything that we receive in schar is a direct result of our avodah, of our service. It's not that, for example, when you go to work, you get a paycheck. Is the paycheck a direct result? It's not a direct result. The proof is that you have 20 people, and each one of them is doing a totally different job, and they all get the same paycheck. They all get the same $80,000 a year. How's that possible? Because it isn't directly linked one with another. It's indirect link. Because you did work and you made your boss happy, so he decided that he's going to give you money. But your work didn't produce the money. Schar mitzvah is that your work produces the reward. And that's the way it is. The Shalah talks about this, that the schar v'oinish, the rewards and the punishments in Torah mitzvahs, they're natural results. An avera produces its punishment. A mitzvah produces its reward.
So why Shabbos?
So if you're going to say that Hashem says, "Oh, you're so special, I'll pull you up to the world of Bria," okay, but that's not the way it works. There has to be a link. Your work has to actually bring about the reward. So the fact that our work accomplishes more than that which the malachim do, that doesn't explain why the neshamas go up to the world of Bria. So that's why the Alter Rebbe brings in the other point, which is, besides for the fact that that neshamas accomplish more than malachim, there's another factor here, which is that we have a harder time doing our work, which is a different thing. In other words, the first thing we said is we accomplish more. Another thing is we have a harder time. Why is it harder for us? Because we have to choose. Malachim don't have to choose. Malachim don't have bechira chavshis. By them, the truth is clear and obvious. They don't have to choose. And choice is a function of the mind, not a function of the heart. This is something we spoke about last week. The idea of choosing to go opposite of your nature, that comes from the mind. Your heart is your nature. Your heart follows its nature. The ability to choose to do something other than what your nature says, that's the mind. So that's why, because of the function of free choice, that's what gives the neshamas access to the world of Bria on Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, because the choice is associated with the mind. So in general, their avodah is with ava v'yira, with natural love and fear. And therefore, in general, their place is in the world of Yitzirah. But because part of their avodah is associated also with the mind, with Bechira, therefore on Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh they go up to the world of Bria. Weiter inside. V'hinei, says the Alter Rebbe, calls everything we're saying, hu b'modar on neshamas. This is where the neshamas dwell, u'makam amidasan, in the place where they stand. However, teirasan v'avidasan, the Torah and the avodah of the neshamas, not the neshamas themselves, their Torah study and their mitzvahs, nechlalis mamish b'yutzviris, are literally subsumed in the 10 spheres, shehein bechinas alakus, which are complete godliness. So in every world of the 4 worlds, there is the 10 spheres within that world. And then there's what's called the Heichalos U'Medurim. There are the chambers of that world. There are the different palaces and different chambers of the world. The Malachim and also the Neshamas reside in the different palaces and chambers of the world. The Torah mitzvahs, they're not in the palaces and the chambers. They become completely subsumed and included in the Esher Spheres, in the 10 spheres, the light which is in the 10 spheres, which is absolute elokus, which is absolute godliness. And the godliness which is revealed in that world. Because at the end of the day, as we learned in chapter 35, a neshama is very, very holy, but a neshama has some sort of identity. Remember we learned in chapter 35, that's why the neshama needs to do mitzvahs in order to connect with Hashem, because mitzvahs is absolute bittul to Hashem, whereas the neshama has an identity. That's why the neshama loves Hashem and fears Hashem. As the words that the Rebbe uses in Tanya, it's a yesh misha oyev and a yesh misha yareh. To love and fear, there has to be something, an entity that loves, an entity that fears. So since the neshama is a nivra, the neshama is a creation, the neshama is an entity, so therefore it doesn't become completely bottled and subsumed in the light of Hashem. It is housed in the different in the different, again, chambers and palaces which are in that world. But the actual Torah becomes one and united with and subsumed and goes up in the oir, in the light, which is in the 10 spheres of that world. V'hainu, this means the Torah mitzvahs become subsumed. The Yud spheres de Bria, and the 10 spheres of Bria, Aidei Dechilu Rechimu Sichliim, and that is if the person is engaged in, and did his mitzvahs with an intellectual love and fear of Hashem. Ubiyut spheres the Yitzira, and the Torah mitzvahs become subsumed in the 10 spheres of Yitzira. Aidei Dechilu Rechimu Tivim, if the person did those mitzvahs and studied the Torah through a natural fear and love of Hashem. Ubeseichan, and in those 10 spheres, Mulubashais Yud spheres dai Atzilus. In the light which is in the spheres of Yitzira and Bria, there is the 10 spheres of Atzilus. They're absolutely united with the 10 spheres of Atzilus. The Yud spheres Atzilus and the 10 spheres of Atzilus are united betachlis completely, b'matzilan, with the one that emanated them, which is Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the infinite light of Hashem. Mashenk in Neshamis, as opposed to the Neshamis themselves, Ein on the Chlalis Belakus Yitzfiris, they are not subsumed in the godliness which is within the 10 spheres. Ella, rather, Oimdas, they stand Behechalus and Medurin and the houses and the chambers, the Bria, Yitzira, whether in the world of Bria, in the higher level of Gan Eden, or Yitzira, or the lower level of Gan Eden. V'nehenin, and what do the Neshamas do in Gan Eden? They take pleasure, Miziva Shechina. As I state, it says that in Gan Eden, the Neshamas, they take pleasure, Miziva Shechina. What is Ziva Shechina? From the radiance, the shine of the Shechina. What does that mean? Says the Alter Rebbe, what is this? What is the radiance of the Shechina that they take pleasure in? Hu Eir Ein Sof Baruch Hu. That is the infinite light of Hashem. Hamiyuchad b'Yud spheres the Bria, which is one with the 10 spheres of Bria, Oidi Yitzira, or the 10 spheres of Yitzira. V'hu Ziv Teirasan va'avidasan mamish. The Neshamas are literally enjoying the glow of their own Torah and their own Avodah. Ayin Zoyer v'Yakal Daf Reshud, as it says in the Zoyer. Hischar mitzvah hi ha-mitzvah atzma, because the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. So Dr. Rebbe is saying over here, based on the Zoyer, is a very powerful point, which is that when a neshama goes up to Gan Eden, what is the pleasure? What sort of pleasure does it enjoy? It enjoys the pleasure of its own. The Ziva Shechina is its own Torah mitzvahs. Its own Torah mitzvahs which now become subsumed in the light of Hashem, and the neshama is enjoying the pleasure of its own Torah mitzvahs. In other words, every single time you do a mitzvah, you're creating your Gan Eden. Not you're causing your Gan Eden, you're creating your Gan Eden. The only thing is that your neshama is not going to be able to enjoy it till after 120. But the mitzvah is the Gan Eden. Your Torah is your Gan Eden. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to catch the flow here. Did we just make a distinction between the neshamas that were, taking from the Ziva Shechina and something before it where it was completely united?
The Torah mitzvahs themselves is completely united with Hashem. And the neshamas, so the Torah mitzvahs become subsumed. They become subsumed in the Oir Ein Sof, which is in the Yud spheres, which is in the 10 spheres of the world of Bria or the world of Yitzira.
And while the Neshama is doing it, so I guess the Neshama is also becoming completely included.
No.
No?
No. No.
While they're involved with the mitzvah? At the time of the involvement in the mitzvah, when that occurs?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
But the point is that at this point, after 120, so the neshama is in the world of Bria and the world of Yitzira, and its pleasure it's taking is from Miziv Hashchina, the Ziv, the radiance, the glow, the shine of the Shechina, which is the glow and the shine of the mitzvah, which they did, which now has become part of the Shechina.
But isn't the neshama a chelik memao? Isn't it? It looks like it's like a separate entity.
It is. Let's leave that alone for now. So we have over here is very powerful. It's pointed out that the neshama in Gan Eden doesn't even take pleasure in the mitzvah itself, but in the ziv. Because the mitzvah itself is too high. The mitzvah itself, becomes absolutely one with Hashem, and the mitzvah itself is too high for the neshama even to take pleasure in. The neshama can only take pleasure in the ziv, in the radiance and the glow of the mitzvah and the glow of the Torah, but not in the Torah and the mitzvahs itself. Because the Torah and mitzvahs are above and beyond Gan Eden, above and beyond that. Which gives you an understanding of just how great Torah and mitzvahs are. And gives you understanding also of the immaturity of doing mitzvahs and learning Torah for the sake of Gan Eden, when Torah and mitzvahs are so much higher and so much greater than Gan Eden itself. As also we have in this week's Pirkei Avos that Yafa Shah Achas B'tshuva Ma'asim Tovim B'Elam Hazeh, that 1 hour of tshuva Ma'asim Tovim in this world is greater than Kol Chai Elam Haba, than the entire Elam Haba. Elam Haba is only you're appreciating the radiance of the mitzvah. The mitzvah itself is beyond that. How great and how important is the mitzvah itself? There's a fascinating mimer from the Tzemach Tzedek. It's in Derech Mitzvah. I don't know if we've discussed this in the past. The Tzemach Tzedek says, he brings down a story from the Gemara. The Gemara says, Gemara Chagiga, we all know that Reb Meir had a teacher whose name was Elisha ben Avuya. And this Elisha ben Avuya was an incredibly great Talmud Chacham, one of the...
Acher, they call him.
Later on he was called Acher, right? One of the incredibly great... Tanoim. He was a contemporary of Rabbi Akiva. And eventually he went off and he became a kofer, and he did a lot of terrible things. He did a lot of terrible things, bin Adam l'chavere, a lot of terrible things, bin Adam l'makim. It wasn't just that he was a kofer, he assisted the Romans in the persecution of the Yidden. He became a very terrible person. And when he died, so the Gemara tells us that he wasn't allowed into Gehenna. That's what it says. It says he wasn't allowed not into Gan Eden and not into Gehenna. Obviously, he wasn't allowed into Gan Eden for obvious reasons. But he also wasn't allowed into Gehenna. Why? Because he had studied too much Torah. That's what the Gemara says. So he was in limbo. He was in limbo. And the Shama was in limbo. Elisha ben Avuya. Elisha ben Avuya. So Elisha ben Avuya had a student. His name was Reb Meir. And this Reb Meir, the Reb Meir, the great Reb Meir, Stam Mishnah Reb Meir, the one who everything, the whole Mishnah is basically the Mishnah of Reb Meir. So Reb Meir Balanes, yes. Reb Meir remained true and loyal to his teacher even after Elisha ben Avuya went off. Reb Meir remained true and still continued to learn Torah from him. It's a very fascinating story. And after he died, so the Meir said like this: "That's a terrible thing that my teacher isn't getting into Gehenna." Because he says, "Mutiv de l'daine v'leise la'alma da'asi." It would be better for him to go into Gehenna, in order that so that in Gehenna he'd be cleansed, his neshama would be cleansed, and he'd be able to enter in Elam Haba. It's worth it to go to Gehenna in order to get into Elam Haba. So the Meir said that when I die, I'm going to daven, but I'm going to intercede on his behalf to get him into Gehenna. I'm going to get my teacher into Gehenna. So,
That's fun.
and he says, if you want to know that mission's accomplished, you'll see that after I pass away, you'll see smoke will start coming up from the caver of Rabbi Elisha ben Avuya. And that's what happened. Rameir died, and smoke started coming up from the caver of Elisha ben Avuya. And this lasted for decades, probably somewhere around 100 years. Then came along another...
Who's in Gehenna 100 years?
Somewhere around there, yeah. It says that even only 12 months. Apparently there are exceptions, very, very rare exceptions.
Wow, that's terrible.
And then it says that then a Moira came along, Rabbi Yochanan, the famous Rabbi Yochanan, the editor of the Talmud Yerushalmi. And he said, look at that. Look what Rameir did. It's a trick for a Talmud to roast his Rebbe. That's what he said. He says, I'm going to get him out. When I die, I'm going to pull him out of Gehenna. I'm going to get him into Gan Eden, and you will see that when I die, the smoke will stop from his caver. And that's what happened. The mayor died, and the smoke stopped coming up from the caver of Acher, from Moshe ben Avoya.
Maybe say the story with Alpaim Amma, he was on the horse. This is very strong story.
It is, but it's not so relevant. But you're right, it's an incredible story.
What did Elisha ben Avoya do? Rabbi, that he was in between Gehenna and Gan Eden and Gehenna?
What was he doing?
Wonder.
He did something wrong.
To be honest, did he do something wrong, you asked? He did a terrible things. He went off the deep end. He was a big Talmud Chacham, but went off the deep end. He became a kofer be'iker and did terrible things.
With people?
What?
Went off the deep end with people or something?
Sure.
Well, yeah, he aided and abetted in the murder of Yidden and many other things. He completely threw away Yiddishkeit and did terrible things. Now, so the Tzemach Tzedek says like this: Remeir knew how long Acher would have to suffer in Gehenna, and still Remeir felt that it was worth it. It was worth it to go through that pain of Gehenna in order to get him into Gan Eden. Now, how painful is Gehenna? You want to know how painful is Gehenna? So the Ramban, the Tzemach Tzedek says that the Ramban says in his Akdama, in his introduction to Sefer Eiv, the Ramban says that 70 years of the suffering of Eiv doesn't come to 1 hour in Gehenna.
70 years.
Now, and to give you context of Eiv, he lost his entire family, died on him. He lost all his wealth, and he himself became incredibly ill and filled with and suffering terrible pain. Says that the Ramban, 70 years of going through that hell isn't like one moment in the real hell. Whatever we have down here in this world is nothing. The Alter Rebbe talks about this later on in Ger Tshuva. He says that if we realize that every single time we have a little suffering in this world, that rids us of a lot of suffering in Gehenna, we realize how worth it is. He gives an example that when the shade moves an inch in this world, right? So how far did the sun move? Thousands of miles for the shade to move 1 inch. The same thing is, everything over here a little has a huge corresponding impact. A little suffering over here in this world takes away so much suffering in Gehenna. So Alter Rebbe says that's one way to remain happy, to be samech, be yisurim. When a person has yisurim, to realize what you're accomplishing. But we're digressing a little. The point is that Ramban says, to give you an idea of how terrible Gehenna is.
It's 10 times as hot as the sun, right? Gehenna is 10 times hotter.
Yeah, but obviously we're not. It's not physical heat, but so. And despite the fact that Gehenna is such terrible suffering, to the extent again that 70 years of Eve suffering isn't even, still Rameir felt that it's worth it for Acher to go through decades of Gehenna. Decades, not 1 hour, decades of Gehenna in order to reach Gan Eden. That gives us a little of understanding of just how much pleasure Gan Eden is. Can we envision any pleasure which would make it worth going through the suffering of Eiv? Can we envision any such pleasure? And here we're saying that to go through Gehenna for all those years, says Rameir, Mutav Diladaina, it's better you should go through the Gehenna to get to Gan Eden. Gives us an idea of just how pleasurable Gan Eden is. Yes.
This conversation is kind of weird because here we're talking about basically what you get. You get this punishment.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Hold it. Comes along the Alter Rebbe over here in Tanya, and he says that you should know this whole Gan Eden, which is awaiting you after 120 years, which is a pleasure, which we can't even begin to imagine its magnitude. It's all Ziv HaShechina. It's the Ziv, the radiance of the Shechina. And what is the Shechina itself? Your Torah mitzvahs.
Yeah, but you're only getting the Ziv HaShechina from the Torah mitzvahs.
But the Shechina itself is your Torah mitzvahs. And the Gan Eden is the Ziv. Gan Eden is only the Ziv. The Torah mitzvahs. So we're waiting, you're waiting for Gan Eden. Every time that you do a mitzvah over here, that's even greater than Gan Eden. Gan Eden is only the Ziv of that. This, Yafa Shah Achas, 1 hour of Torah mitzvah is greater than Gan Eden, because the whole Gan Eden is only a manifestation of your Torah mitzvahs. How great is your Torah mitzvahs themselves? And we're not saying do the Torah mitzvahs in order to be able to get Gan Eden. It's the contrary. Understand how the schar mitzvah that your mitzvah is causing the Gan Eden, which should tell you how valuable your mitzvah is. In other words, your mitzvah is creating the Gan Eden, which means it's greater than the Gan Eden, because the creator of something is always greater than it.
Now it comes back to the voter. That was what I was kind of getting at, the complaint, so to speak. Because we in this world, we talk about the value of Mesiras Nefesh and Voda. It's not about what you get or what you don't get. But now you brought it back to that, really. So.
Yeah. So that's a Pirkei Avos is full of that. We have to realize that our Avodas Hashem in itself is much greater than any reward that we get for it. I know when we learned Perek Zayin, we spoke about this a long time ago. Imagine, you're walking along on the street one day, and you see a person falls down in front of you. You realize the person caught a heart attack, this guy's dying. You go and you do CPR on this person, you saved his life. And you found out this person is a big Rav, a big tzaddik. And then you get, the guy says, I'm so thankful to you for saving my life here, I want to give you a little matana, and he gives you $100. That's the Gan Eden. That's the $100 is like the Gan Eden.
What happened to that?
What?
The whole reward of saving somebody that statue.
The greatest thing is you saved his life. You saved his life. The greatest thing is when you're doing a mitzvah is the Torah. There's a reward that comes from it, but we should never confuse. We can never confuse the ikar for the tafel.
Is the reward here in addition to Gan Eden, or is it instead of Gan Eden?
Again, is the reward what?
Is it in addition to Gan Eden?
The reward here in this world?
Or instead of what you get? Yeah, what the reward in this world, yeah.
In addition. Inside, page 104. So now, till now we were talking about the worlds of Bria and the worlds of Yitzira, the neshamas that inhabit both of these worlds. And now we are going to be filling up this empty column over here, top left. Which neshamas are there in the world of Atzilus? Says the Alter Rebbe, what is the world of Atzilus? Let's take a look at this list over here. In the world of Atzilus, that's where we have the Yud of Hashem's name, which is Chachma, which is total bittul. That's the world of Atzilus, total bittul to Hashem. There is no Malach in Atzilus, because in bittul there are no creations. Which neshamas find themselves in Atzilus? The world of Atzilus, which is higher even than the Seichel. Seichel is in the world, the Bina is in the world of Bria. The world of Atzilus, which is higher than Seichel, the intellect and understanding of the Seichel Nivra, of the understanding of a created being. Because over there, in the world of Atzilus, you have the Chachma and the Bina and Das of Hashem are absolutely united there. Beyichud atzum v'nifla, an unbelievable unity. Beyeser se'ez v'yeser oz la'in kates. Bebeil mabriya. The unity in the world of Atzilus is so much greater and so much more powerful than the unity that exists in the world of Bria. Kisham, because over there in the world of Bria, Yardu, the light of Hashem comes down, Lahoyer bebechinas tzimtzum, comes down and it illuminates only in a compressed and contracted way. So that Malachim and other, the seichel, the intellect of creations, lekabel mahem, Chabad should be able to receive from it, chachma bin adas, leidas Hashem, to understand Hashem, ulahavin ulahasig eza hasaga, and to be able to comprehend something, ba'ir save baruch hu, something about the infinite light of Hashem, kfi koyach sichlim hanivroim, as much as possible for the intellect of a creation. Sheheim balik vulu v'tachlus, which obviously the intellect of a creation is limited, and shalai yizbatma mitziyusam, if it takes too much, then it becomes batal b'mitzias, like we have in this week's parsha with Nadav and Avihu. V'layu begatin evroim klal. If the light of Atzilus were to shine in them, they wouldn't be creations at all. Rak yachzru l'mkodim v'sharsham, they would return to the source. Shu b'chinas olokus mamish, which is godliness. So again, in the world of Bria, you have this tremendous contraction that allows all the creations in the world of Bria to understand Hashem. This contraction, which is hisibas ha'ara, that's the reason for the ray of light, shemi'ir sham, the reason why you have the illumination of Chabad shel ein sof baruch hu neshamis, why the intellect of Hashem can shine to the neshamis elu ba'ilam abriya, which is in the world of Bria. So the world of Bria, there's a tremendous contraction of Hashem's light, in order that we should have the bina, be able to have understanding over there. Masheik in Batzilus. What? Masheik in Batzilus, but not Silus. She'ein lebechinas tzimtzum kol kach. There, the light of Hashem is not that contracted. So he efshar l'sichlim nevroim l'kabel mehen. It's impossible for the seichel, the intellect of a creation, to receive that light. It's beyond intellect. And therefore less machshavta delhoin tfisa sham klal. It's impossible to comprehend the world of Atzilus. It's chachma, which chachma is higher than bina. Chachma is higher than comprehension. L'chein, therefore, who inhabits Atzilus? There are no malachim over there, but humadar l'tzadikim hagadolim. That is the dwelling place of the neshamas of the greatest tzadikim. Sha'avidasam hi l'mayla mayla, whose service of Hashem is higher, afilu mebechinas dechilu urechimu hanimshachis menabina v'das b'gdolasa yizbarach. Tzadikim, whose service of Hashem is greater even than love and fear, which comes from intellect. Just like the world of Atzilus, ulamayla mayla is higher mebechinas bina v'das l'seichel nivra, higher than comprehension. So these tzadikim, whose service of Hashem is beyond comprehension, beyond intellect. Ella, rather, avidasam hoisam bechinas merkava mamish. Their service of Hashem is like the level of a merkava, la'in sof baruch hu. These were the tzaddikim, the greatest of tzaddikim. They're like a chariot to Hashem, total and absolute bittul to Hashem, which transcends and is above seichel. Uli batlei love b'mitzias, they are completely batlei b'mitzias. Totally bottled to Hashem, they're completely subsumed in Hashem's light. Them and everything that belongs to Him, through their fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs, similar to what it said, that the Avos are the Merkava. They were the chariot. Their entire life, that was their service of Hashem. So the greatest of tzaddikim, whose service of Hashem, you have those of us who serve Hashem with a fear and love, which is natural. Those of us who serve Hashem with a fear and love, which comes from seichel. But the common denominator in fear and love is that fear and love all express an identity, a mitzias. I love Hashem, I fear Hashem. The greatest of tzaddikim, like the Avos, they were above that. Their avodah wasn't ava and yira, love and fear, is me. Their avodah was even higher and greater than that, with absolute bittul to Hashem, like a merkava. By the way, that's connected to this month, because the month of Iyar is Rosh Hashanah of, it's brought down even in Sifri Halacha, Rosh Hashanah of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel. And Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel are the Daled Ragli HaMerkava, the four legs of the Merkava. Absolute bittul to Hashem. And the neshamas of tzaddikim on that level, they find their place in the world of Atzilus.
How you describe it?
Conclude what?
With the tzaddikim have total bitlu in this world, in the Havavira. I don't have. It's not. It's not there. I mean, I don't understand.
We'll conclude with a story.
Oh, all right.
And then next class, Mitzvah Hashem, next year we will we'll talk a little more about this level of these great tzaddikim and explain a little more. But we'll conclude with a story.
Like Bohema, where this year?
Lag B'Omer, there will be a shir here, but not by me. It'll be a separate topic, which Moshe probably will announce.
So you're coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So there's a story that the Ruzhiner, the Halakha Ruzhiner, so there were 2 couples who lived not in the city of Ruzhin, but they lived, I guess, in the vicinity somewhere somehow. And one of them, they were mixed marriages. And one of them, the wife was a chassid, and the husband wasn't a chassid. And the other one was the opposite. The husband was a chassid, and the wife wasn't a chassid. Now, the one whose husband was a chassid and the wife wasn't, so he became ill. And he asked his wife, do me a favor, he says, if you don't mind, take a horse and wagon and go to the Rebbe and ask for a bracha that I should have a refuah shalema, that I should be well. So although the wife wasn't a chassid, but the husband asked, so she went off. And on the way, she went through this other village where it was the opposite way around, where the husband wasn't the chassid. The husband was a misnagid, and the wife was the chassid. And what was going on was, at that time, was the husband had a tavern which he rented from the Parrots, and already for quite a few years he wasn't able to make ends meet, and he wasn't able to pay the rent, and the Parrots was really breathing down his neck and telling him that you better pay me my rent or I'm going to throw you into jail. And he didn't have the money. And the wife kept on saying, why didn't you go to the Rebbe and ask for a bracha? Because the wife was a chassid, but the husband didn't. What Rebbe is? I daven to Hashem. I don't know of any these Meshigasim. But when this other lady came through the city, so the wife was a chassid, said to her husband, you know what, why don't I go? I'll. Just anyway, she's going in her carriage, let me go together. So the husband said, okay, but say there goes. So both of these ladies, they both went together to the Rebbe, one of them asking for a bracha for her husband to have refuah shalema, the other one's asking for a bracha for financial success. And they became good friends, these 2 ladies. And they arrive at the Rebbe, and they were going to go into the Rebbe one after another. And as the custom is, each one, you write down your request on a piece of paper. So they both wrote down their requests, and they were waiting in the waiting room together, and somehow or other their papers got mixed up. They got switched.
Bed Gabbai.
So the lady whose husband was ill went into the Rebbe, and she gave the Rebbe the note, and the Rebbe looked at it and said, go. The note said Parnasa, but the Rebbe said, here, I'm giving you a bracha, everything should be fine, tell your husband, Hashem will help. Good. It was a generic sort of bracha. And then the lady goes in, who's, again, she's the chassid, her husband isn't the chassid, and she gives him the note. Now this is the lady whose husband is having financial difficulty, but the note says that her husband is sick. So the Rebbe says, go tell your husband that he should put on bankus. Bankus means leeches. Because a long time they used to put on leeches to suck out the bad blood. So go put on leeches. So the lady goes home. I mean, so both ladies went home. The one whose husband was ill had her for shlema, all was good. But this lady, this is where the fun begins. The lady goes home, and her husband anyways isn't the chassid, and she tells her husband says, no, what did the Rebbe say? And she says, the Rebbe said you should put on bankus. And that was it. The husband, I told you, what are you going to this Meshugana for? Bankus? What's this all about? There's no way in the world, you're crazy. That was a waste of time, it was a waste of money, it was a waste of energy. And as much as the wife begged him to do it and to listen to the Rebbe, he refused to listen. Until the day arrived, the actual day arrived when this was the deadline. If he doesn't have the money today, he's being thrown into jail. And he wakes up that morning and tells his wife, bring the bankus. I have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. Bring it. Let's see if maybe the Rebbe knew what he was talking about. So they brought bankus, and he put on the bankus, and an hour later there's a knock on the door, and the soldiers, the officers come in, and they see that he's lying there in bed, and he's surrounded in blood. and he didn't have koyach to go with them, so they went back to the parents and said something wrong with him. He's sick. He's injured, surrounded in blood. So the parents says, "Mishigasan, I saw him yesterday. He's fine. He's well. It's his games, whatever. So bring him in the bed." So they went. They got 4 soldiers to pick him up, and they're bringing him to the palace. And as they're bringing him to the palace, so who passes by is the Paras' wife, and the Paras' wife looks at him and says, "What's going on over here? Why are you all banged up and covered in blood?" So he says, he was a quick thinker, and he said, "I had to go get the money to pay the rent. So I went to the other city, and yesterday I was on the way back, and I was attacked by a bunch of robbers, and they took all the money, and they left me some mazik like this. They left me all." So the wife felt so bad, and she went to her husband. Says, "You have to realize that he had the money, and it was stolen. You have to pardon him the money." And the husband, I guess, he was in a good mood, and he listened to his wife. He pardoned the whole debt, and everything was fine.
It's good.
What's the point of the story? The point of the story is, this is really what we're talking about over here in Tanya, is that the greatest of tzaddikim, they're Merkava Tashem. A Merkava means that they're like a chariot that has a rider, and a chariot doesn't make decisions on its own. It's not as if it says, the chariot says, "My rider wants me to go to the right, but I might go to the left, or maybe I'll make a mistake and I'll go to the left." There is no ratzon. Every move that a chariot does is directed by the rider. The same thing is when we're talking about great tzaddikim, we have to realize they're makavat Hashem, and every word they say is directed from Hashem. So sometimes we could think, why did the tzaddik say it? Did the tzaddik know what he was saying? Did he say it maybe because he saw this settle? But the skashrus of Chassidim to a Rebbe is based on the understanding we're talking about over here, that the neshama is a neshama from Atzilus, which is a Merkava, and therefore we understand that every word that comes from a tzaddik's mouth, a tzaddik on this level, is directed from above, and therefore if you listen to the tzaddik, you're always going to end up in a good place and always be doing the right thing.
You become a chassid in there?
That's not part of the story. I don't know.
Okay.